Good evening. Good evening. Where's my red bar? Good evening. Good evening, Winchester. I see the red bar. Good evening, Winchester. Hey, it's Visual Radio Live. I've never done this before. 8 o'clock on 8/15/13. And the views and opinions of Visual Radio are those of the host, and the co-host, and our guest, and Frank Delastrito, of course, and not necessarily those of WinCam, Winchester Community Access and Media, its staff, its board of directors, its members, people of Winchester, Massachusetts, planet Earth, and the known universe.
That covers it.
We should add that.
I am thrilled that Lisa Kavanaugh is back.
Yes.
After you co-hosted with me in '95, and you look younger.
Thank you.
And John Fannon, who is just this great singer-songwriter that I have reviewed all his albums. I'm so excited to meet you. Actually, we've met before.
We haven't seen each other in a long
Well,
time.
I haven't met you, so I'm
Hi, Lisa.
thrilled. Thrilled.
Pleasure.
It's nice
And
to meet you.
John has the big hit. He probably doesn't want to hear this, but I love the song "Don't Ever Want to Lose You." One of the great Boston classics. One of the best songs ever. There's like Roadrunner. There's Dream On. There's Don't Ever Want to Lose You. It's in a select group of Boston rock and roll hits. The upper echelon, and thank you for writing it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for putting me in with all that great company.
But you were there with that great company. And Jay Giles Band. What do we pick for Jay Giles? I'm going to pick it. Give it to me. The reggae-tinged red vinyl record, the third. That's a nice one, isn't it?
That's a great record. Yeah.
I can pick the song that I think
You think.
must have got lost.
It's good. It's really good.
To me, I just love that song.
So you got Aerosmith, Boston, and then the Cars. What do we pick for the Cars?
Actually, my favorite Cars song was Drive.
Number one.
Yeah,
You know,
I
I was
Drive.
the personal videographer of Ben Orr. Because Ben worked with John Kalishus from The Rat.
Oh.
John and I being friends, so I would be out there videotaping Ben as he was doing his thing with John Kalishus. And one night we had Richie from The Fools. And it was great. So instead of keyboards, we had two guitars one night, and I have that on tape, and it's just amazing.
Wow.
One question. Ben Orr, what member of...
He was lead singer of the Cars.
Okay, thank
bass
you.
And bass player.
He was
Just
the
for somebody,
McCartney.
anybody that doesn't know that, because, you know.
Boston music, we just assume here.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about this show, John, is we've probably done, I told Karen DiBiase, who says hi,
Oh, yeah, I see. I work with Karen all the time.
and we're going to ask about that. Karen and Peter, of course, my dear friend Peter Zico is
Yeah.
now in Girl on Top.
Yeah. Yes.
And
And he's got another band. He's got a band called Eclipse that he plays with all the time.
are you working with them?
No,
No.
but I've seen them and they sound great.
I knew Peter back in the Cube days. You know about Cube?
No, that must be before I knew him.
Yeah. So, but Karen DiBiase was on the show with her husband, Dave. We've had about 100 hours of local Boston music. Everyone from Jonathan Richmond to Greg Hawkes to, Adrian Perry, Joe Perry's son. So this show has done about 100 hours of Boston music. I don't know if anyone's got that many interviews of Boston area artists. I mean, just because I know people and they come in and you're here tonight, and it's just kind of a fun aside. We're going to talk about Lisa being back and what she's done in all the years since she's not been on the show. But I want to ask John about the brand new album. Title?
Saved
Yes.
all the pieces.
And I really
Oh,
like it.
Great
Thank you.
title.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that was actually one of the first songs that I wrote for the album, and it just seemed like, wow, this sounds like an album title to me. And it's kind of what the whole record is about. It really, literally, saving all the pieces of your influences, and so it's not to get too deep on that, but that's what it was.
And it was interesting because New England had a band sound, as most bands have. The Rolling Stones have a sound.
Yep.
Separate from this, you go solo, you do a solo record. It would be so interesting to go back in time and maybe see New England. It would almost be like a concept album if New England played Saving All the Pieces.
Yeah, it's all true. As a solo artist, I think I went further back into the earliest influences, which the Beatles was my biggest influence, and you can probably hear that through the record. But then, of course, there was Beatle influences even in the New England record. This is a little more streamed down than a New England record, as far as power, but that was on purpose too, because when I play live, I'm by myself on stage. So it needs to translate to, an unplugged artist. So that's why there's a lot less like pounding drums and heavy production. But there is the production that's there. I do maybe 20% of the show. I use tracks behind me, but I also use videos behind me, so it becomes sort of a theatrical experience.
Have you played recently?
The last time I played in the area was Club Parsim, June 22nd.
Oh.
And that was actually the CD release party. And that was kind of a crazy week because I was getting ready not only for that show and finishing the record. I didn't finish the record actually until Thursday night before the Saturday night.
Oh my God.
That's funny.
Pushing the limit. And we were also rehearsing for a New England reunion concert that Sunday night. So that was kind of a wild week.
That was the channel reunion?
That was the channel reunion. So my CD release party was June 22nd, and the channel reunion was June 23rd. So the boys were all staying at my house for the week, and so it was hard to get some things done sometimes when everybody's hanging out together.
That's funny. So it's like a reunion.
Oh, it was, yeah. And we just love. We don't get together that often, but we just love it when we're together. It's just so much fun.
When is the next time you're playing? You'll have to let us know so we can announce it on the
Yes.
show.
Well, what we decided, as far as New England, we decided that we're going to try to play a lot more.
That'd be great. I'd love to come see you.
At least 10 or 12 times a year, we're going to try
That's
to
a
figure
lot.
out. Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
kind of a
that
lot.
is. That's nice.
And it would be more, but Jimmy lives in L.A., Gary lives in Detroit, so we have to sort of pick our spots. But so we'll try to do that. And solo things, I haven't booked any yet, but I'll probably start after the first of the year and start playing again.
Now, there's a backline at the upcoming Rat reunion, which might be in your neck of the woods. I think it might be in Quincy. There's a reunion of the Rat bands for like 2 days, the 14th and 15th of September. So maybe I don't know if the band wants to come out to that, but that might be, but New England wasn't a Rat band. You were already at the Paradise level.
Right, but you know what we did? Sort of took a lead from the Rolling Stones. Remember when they were playing like little clubs?
Yeah.
And I think they played Sir Morgan's Cove and Worcester.
did.
So after we actually had sort of made it, we did play the Rat. It was really fun. We just sort of took a lead from them, and let's go back and do the Rat, because we all played there as young kids. I mean, everybody played the Rat.
What band were you in when you played the Rat?
I was in a couple of different bands. The one that I remember, there was a band from L.A. They were called Adrian.
Okay.
And they were kind of a glam rock band. And they actually saw me playing at the Groggery and invited me to be in the band. And actually one kind of famous guy from that group turned out was Prescott Niles in the Knack. Oh. I'm trying to think who else I played there with. But
you know who was a friend of mine was the lead singer from the Knack, who passed away.
Yes.
Doug Fieger, or Feiger, if people say it, but he's Jeff Feiger's brother, the great attorney who's always on TV.
Oh, really? Oh.
But Doug and I became friends because he was discovered by Jimmy Miller.
Oh, I love Jimmy.
That's how we met. We met through Jimmy Miller. Did you meet Jimmy when he was here?
I never knew Jimmy, but I certainly know all about him.
Hirsch met him many times.
Did he?
We've actually been in 2 different countries. Have we? No.
I didn't go to England. I was supposed to. I should have, because we had a young group we were working with, and when I wasn't there to babysit, it just was disorganized.
They got out of control.
Oh, disorganized is a nice way of putting it.
Okay, we'll say it that way.
But Jimmy was amazing, and what happened was Dave Mason found this band called Sky from Traffic, brought it to Jimmy Miller. Jimmy went to RCA Records. They signed them. So there's 2 albums by a band called Sky, and that's how Doug broke into the business, and then he formed the Knack. But he remembered fondly because Jimmy Miller kind of opened the door for him.
Oh.
And but so many greats have gone by the wayside. We've lost them. So it's just fantastic when bands stay together, reform. It's great to have New England back.
Yeah, we're all happy to be back. We really had so much fun at this last show that we just made a pact. We have to do this more often.
Now, with the New England reunion, did anyone play anything off the new John Fannon solo record?
No, but the boys did join me at the at Club Parsim the night before.
Oh, because they were here.
They were here.
Duh.
So we did play some stuff at that show. So that was a cool show too.
There was drums up there?
There wasn't drums, but we had some percussion. We had one drum. We gave Hirsch a floor tom, and a tambourine and some wind chimes.
That's cool.
So we sort of did it New England unplugged, but it was very cool.
I
Now,
like that. New
Are
England
these all
Unplugged.
the original members?
Yes.
You know what I find about that really interesting, and I think Joe's going to agree with me, the greatest bands never changed their original members. Look at the Rolling Stones. Look at Aerosmith. I mean, I'm sure there's many more, I just can't think of them.
Yeah.
But they always stayed with the same members, and I still to this day believe that was Guns N' Roses' downfall.
And you knew the guys.
Of course, very well. And once Steven Adler was gone, Izzy, was not happy and did not like working with Matt Sorum, so he left. Once he left, there wasn't much left, and I mean, he co-wrote most of the songs. He was a co-founder of the band, and I don't think they realized until it was far too late what they lost, because they never made a good album after he left.
Interesting. But New England has been a mainstay, and Gary Boris has put out the whole catalog.
Yes. Yeah, and well, the interesting thing too about New England, where we haven't played that much together, and it's almost like it was an unwritten pact that we made that we wouldn't replace each other. We wouldn't get another keyboard player because he's in L.A. or we were who we were, and the sad thing is we haven't played as much as we should have over the years, but it's really been logistics.
Now, Lisa and I interviewed the band Mass years ago, which has multiple meanings. Mass, the church thing, because they are a Christian rock band. Mm-hmm. Mass, like heavy mass, and Massachusetts. And you had New England, and you had the band Boston, so it was all covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
But you guys had all 6 states because you were a bigger sound.
Right, exactly. Kind of like
No,
the Patriots.
No, I don't know if you would know, but Joe is such a, when he gets into the bands and the history, at one time, how many well-known bands, whether they were Disco Donna Summer all at the same time, where they were in Boston, from Boston?
Well, it's really hard to say because it's like baseball trading cards. And, you had your Donna Summer, but you also have Jonathan Edwards, who had the Sunshine, and he recorded Intramedia. And while he's recording there, the Aerosmith's cutting their album with Adrian Barber, who did the Velvet Underground and Cream, And you got Adrian Barber working in Boston. Love to have him on the show, because that is a rich history. The Velvet Underground's last album and Aerosmith's first album.
Yeah.
Wow.
What a pair of bookends. And then Engineering Cream in between, But you had Intermedia, which the Mendelsohn brother took over, Richard and Andy.
Yeah.
And you have Berklee College of Music, so you had Tracy Chapman, and it's really hard to put your finger on who's coming. People were coming and going. Tracy launched out of here, but she was no longer a Boston act.
Right.
Yeah.
She was going to Tufts University.
Well, I think that's more what I meant about how many launched from Boston, got their start in Boston.
It's real interesting because Tracy was part of the women's movement, but the women's movement never really accepted her, and there were all these people, oh, this one's going to make it and that one. And Tracy just launched out and left them all behind. And it was kind of good because she was kind of, I really felt snubbed a little by the women's music, and I don't think that was right, She's going to college, but the cliques form in the musical world, and
I've heard that a lot.
Now-
Well, I've experienced it as well.
But what's interesting is John Fannon and Charlie Farron were from the harder rocking bands, which were different from Willie Loco Alexander and my band, which were more of the underground rock bands. So you had these, our paths would cross, and we always had fun crossing paths. But now we're all part of one family. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, his drummer would be down the Rat hanging out with us, but his band wasn't a Rat band. But it was kind of cool to have Hirsch because everyone knew Hirsch. So there were relationships. Steve Tyler would come down, Joe Perry would come down, but they were from a different world than the Rat. They could enjoy the Rat, and we accepted them as, our brethren, but we were the punk crowd.
Yeah.
And I was climbing the rafters. He wouldn't do that. Right? That was my shtick. And it worked. It was my thing. And I'd sing from the ceiling. Well, he sings. I would have a voice come out from the rafters. 2 different things. But see, now in 2013, we're all one club. I think.
Yeah, still around music, still making music, and still talking about it.
Well, in the Channel reunion, you had just every genre. And I was pounded with allergies, and I was happy to hear people saying, "Where was Joe?" At the channel reunion.
I was surprised you weren't there, yeah, but of course now we know.
Pounded with the it was bad. I had a really tough June. I was happy, but I just was not, I just didn't go out much. I came here. You can actually watch the progression of how I'm healthy again. The allergies were, Dinky Dawson, he was there, but he had the same trauma I had, and he was saying it's the global warming, it's making the, because you'd have it like halfway through May and then halfway through June, and by the time of the channel reunion, I was usually done with that stuff.
Yeah.
And Dinky said it's the global warming has kind of extended the allergy thing.
Well,
Makes sense.
could be.
Weird. And he was going through the same thing, but he went to your gig, and he had a good time.
Yeah, that was a fun night. I mean, all the bands sounded great. We loved playing because, again, we hadn't played since 2006, and we had our 4 or 5 rehearsals. And the 3 times we've played, it seems like amazing, only 3 times in 30 years, but it's just like time stood still.
And you've played some big rooms now, the Chevalier and the old Roxy Bradford, right?
Yep, yep.
Where I saw Buddy Guy and Three Dog Night did an amazing show there in the 80s. They used to do the Wang Center in the Garden, and then they were playing the Bradford. It was just amazing because they were at the peak. They were still, you know, the essential. It was all the original members, and they were absolutely brilliant in that room. What did you think of the Bradford? Was it really? Was it?
Oh, the Bradford. We went at the.
No, but that's where this channel reunion was.
Is that what that's where the Club Royale is now?
Yeah. It's the old Roxy.
Yeah, the old Roxy. That's what I know.
Across from the city.
It's a great. I love the room. Great stage, great lights. And particularly the crew was just so professional. The whole evening was just like really high class. It was really fun to do. Look forward to doing it again.
Now you did the Chevalier in Medford.
Yes, we did that 2 years in a row, and that was actually in 2005. That was the first time we actually had played since 1983.
And if I saw you at all in all these years, it was backstage there because I live a mile down from the hall, and Warren works there.
Yep.
So I drop in and see Warren. But do you know that venue? John F. Kennedy spoke there.
Wow.
Sinatra played there.
Holy cow.
Lou Rawls played there. And I want to say Satchmo. I think Louis Armstrong played there.
Wow.
So it's got some real history.
It's a great venue.
And all the condominiums, Jerry Goodwin, the Duke of Madness, lives there. Okay, like right now.
Wow.
DJ Hazard, the comedian, lived there. It was Medford High School, and it burned down. But the Chevalier stayed intact. So after the fire at the high school, they built condos there. So there's a little history, but that's a legendary room.
Wow.
And I was there. You guys were great that night.
Yeah, that was so much fun. For me, I was scared to death, I got to tell you, because I had not been on stage in all those years. The other guys from one band or other had been on stage, so my heart was pounding out of my chest. But
really?
Well, I mean, it was like stage fright almost. But once I got up there and started playing, of course, then you're fine.
You're good.
Yeah, you're
Once
good.
you get up there.
Exactly. Then
same with acting.
Yep.
Now, we're trying to figure out what to do with that room. Warren's there. He brought Elton John and Leon Russell to practice for the Wang Center gig. They had a very secret private practice at the Chevalier, which is brilliant, right? No one knows. You slip in, you're Elton John, you play, you leave. But it's a 2,000-seat room just sitting there, doing not much. So the city will work with people if we want to bring shows in, but the city isn't making an effort to do it. Lynn's doing Lynn Auditorium and Stoneham Theater, and the Regent in Arlington just had Vanilla Fudge, and they had the Zombies.
You know, it's amazing how all the old groups are playing.
And these old theaters are having them.
Yes.
And people are going to see
And
them.
going to
They're
see
just
them.
thrilled to hear
Yeah.
them play again after
Yeah.
however many years.
Do you work at Bose?
I did for many years, but I haven't since the mid-'90s. I was composing and doing sound design there. And then I got laid off there in 1998, and then they hired me like a couple of weeks later as a contractor for many years. The silver lining of me in 2009, that all came to an end, and that was sort of the silver lining. That's what kind of got me going again, writing music, songs, and wanting to go out and perform again. So.
Can I ask you just a little, like a sound designer for Bose, what did you design?
Well, Bose, I'm not sure if they still do it, but they always produced everything as far as, commercials or, any kind of demo that they might do for for any of their stereo systems or cars. So we would create those kind of things, and sometimes they were soundscapes, landscapes, so you could hear it in surround or whatever. It was a fun gig.
Cool. Yeah, and I knew that you were doing that. You've always been producing.
Always producing. I've always had my recording studio since the mid '80s, and still actually looking to around for some bands now to produce. See if there's any talent that needs a producer. Someone
who's been around and who knows about recording contracts, because you were managed by the great Bill Aucoin.
Yeah, Bill Aucoin, and sadly he passed away a couple of years ago.
Now, my good friend Carol Kay, was she doing PR for him with you?
I don't know that name, so I don't believe so.
Carol Kay is Chaos Production. She handles all the Eagle Vision stuff, which is like the new Jethro Tull. Even though Ann Layton is Jethro Tull's publicist, she works with Carol Kay because Carol Kay does all the Eagle Rock releases, which are these amazing Rolling Stones stuff. It's amazing. The Rolling Stones are putting records out on Eagle Vision. They even put out vinyl of the Some Girls Live, the Texas tour. So there's the DVD and there's a double vinyl set. You'd never see that in the old days. A major band like the Stones,
right,
being on Universal, allowing a one-off project or two-off project with a great company like Eagle Vision. So Carol handles that. She's married to Ricky Byrd of the band Tom Dickey and the Desires, who went out to Joan Jett. He was Joan Jett's guitarist.
Oh.
I love rock and roll. And so Ricky Byrd's married to Carol, and he has a brand new solo disc out, Lifer. He'd be a great guy for you to play with because he just gets such rock and roll history as you do. And there's that Bill Aucoin connection.
Yeah, wow, yeah. I digress a little bit. You had mentioned Elton John, and it made me think of a great story that, speaking of Bill Aucoin, and he got assigned to Infinity Records, which was MCA, and
Ronald
Luxembourg. I actually just saw Ronald Luxembourg in New York.
God bless him, he's still alive.
Oh yeah, I played the Rockwood Music Hall down there, and he came to the show.
Well, that's nice of him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I hadn't heard from him in 30 years, and I got a phone message about 2 months ago, and it said, "This is Francois from Paris, and I'm looking for a record producer, and I heard that you are the best." So I'm thinking, I know somebody's playing a game with me here, but let me find out who it was. And when I called up, of course, it's him. I hadn't spoken to him in 30 years. But anyways, he came to the show. It was great to see him.
The old record company president comes to the show. That's pretty good.
That's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah. But anyways, speaking of him, he threw us a big party, when we signed with the label, and he had several acts on there. So it was the inauguration of Infinity Records. So they threw this big party at Universal City, and they had this dinner, and there's about 200 people, and we're all having this great dinner and just feeling great because we just got a record deal and our record's coming out, and Paul Stanley's sitting with us because he helped produce the record. And
right, you had Kiss, Paul Stanley.
Yeah, and Mike Stone, of course, of Queen and
Asia,
Journey. Another one we lost, and
I didn't know that.
He died in 2002.
Ah.
Which his birthday was a couple of days ago, but anyways, getting back to our brighter things. So we're at this dinner, and we're finishing the dinner, and there's a piano in the over about actually about 10 feet away from where I was sitting, and dinner's over, and all of a sudden Elton John walks by us, and he sits down and performs for us for 2 hours by himself.
Oh, that must have been great.
At the piano. It was absolutely.
Ron planned it.
Ron planned it. It was
okay.
Absolutely phenomenal. And it was that part of his career where he hadn't actually played for a year or two, and he was just so gracious, and he just came out and he just says, I've gone over the songs for the last couple of days. I'm probably going to forget some words, but we're just going to do this together. And he had a bottle of champagne, and it was just one of the most remarkable things I ever saw.
You had a private concert with Elton John. You and 199 other people.
Exactly. Absolutely phenomenal.
I think you're probably
what a great
the
story.
only people that have ever had that. At a signing party to go to boot.
And it inspired him, actually. I don't know if you remember, but around 1979 or 80, he went out and actually did a solo concert.
I saw it. 79 at the Wang Center with.
I did too.
Ray Cooper.
Ray Cooper, exactly. So that
was a great show.
It was a great show.
Mama Can't Buy You Love.
Yeah.
Because he had that wonderful song. It wasn't Gamble and Huff, but one of the guys with Gamble and Huff, because he loved the Philly sound. He did Mama Can't Buy You Love, and he did it acoustic that night.
Yeah.
It was so great.
Oh, phenomenal. Yeah.
So you were at that show. I was too.
Yep.
I was producing a band around the corner at Electroacoustics, and I had to go see Elton. So I went and got a ticket, and after the session I ran over and saw Elton. It was just, remember Electroacoustics? Did you ever go there? That was on Piedmont Street, right next to a drag queen bar called Jacques. And there were like knife fights in the night. So Ted and Connie St. Pierre moved their whole operation up to Bethel, Maine to get away from the craziness of the drag queen bar next to their recording studio.
I don't think I ever was there, but...
Willie Loco did his solo Loco there in 1980. Kiss, so you toured with Kiss a bit?
Yeah, we did our first tour. Actually, so many of our fans that we still have saw us in that first tour. You know, we played, I think it was 40 or 50 cities.
You did with Kiss?
Yep, and like Madison Square Garden and Pontiac Silverdome and Montreal Forum. And
some guys out of Boston, this must have been overwhelming.
Oh, it was phenomenal. And when we were playing Madison Square Garden, they were booked for 2 nights. And we had already done many shows with them, but everyone was telling us that no matter how good you are, if you open up for Kiss in New York, because it's their hometown, you're going to get stuff thrown at you. So just be careful and watch out. It won't matter. And so I was just like, oh my God, I was scared to death. And I actually got a little sick before I went on stage.
Whoa.
2 minutes before going on stage. But anyways, we would get up there and we played the show, and we didn't get anything thrown at us.
Wow.
So we actually, we actually held our own in Madison Square Garden. But
all right, I have a question for you. I was working for my dad's company, and there was this this client, Stavisky. And the woman tells me her son was a lawyer working on the Pope's contract. Were you a label mate with the Pope on Infinity?
yes, we were.
And was he at your Elton John concert?
No, he was not.
Those are my 2 questions. So our client, Stavisky, the son, did the contract for
That
the
was
Pope
beautiful.
for Infinity.
But you know that the Pope contract is what brought the label down.
I didn't say that. I wanted you to say it. The Pope destroyed the
Destroyed the
record
record
label.
label.
Oh my God.
He didn't sell any records. They gave him, all millions of dollars.
Did they give him millions?
Yeah,
People?
at least more than one. A couple of $1 million or something.
Back in 1980 is a lot of money.
And they printed, I don't know, a huge amount of records, and they didn't sell any.
Now, you know what? This is a funny concept because there's a record that Casablanca Records bet the farm on, and it was the Johnny Carson double record.
Oh.
Here's Johnny. It's a wonderful record, and it bombed. It's got Bette Midler. I think it's got Marilyn Monroe singing. It had guests in their songs, and no one bought it. But Donna Summer and Kiss bailed out the label.
Yes.
You're at Kiss bailed out the label, so they survived the Johnny Carson debacle.
Yeah.
But Infinity didn't survive the
Infinity
Pope.
couldn't survive. No.
Divine intervention.
Really? That would have freaked me out a little bit.
Well, we were doing our second record actually at Intermedia.
Oh, here in Boston. I did not know this.
We did the first one in 2 studios in L.A. And again, we were just so starstruck. We were so thrilled to be doing this. And we started the record at Davlin Studios in L.A. And the band recording adjacent to us in another room was Journey.
Okay.
So Steve Perry used to come into our studio every day. He just fell in love with the band, and I think that was why then Mike Stone started producing their records. But then we did the second half out.
Oh, Journey met Mike Stone
through us. Yeah.
I thought it was the other way around.
No.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
And so that was cool. Of course, Mike had already made his mark with Queen especially. But then we moved to Cherokee Studios for the second half of that record.
I know where that
bookings. Is it still there? I wonder if it's even still there.
I think it is.
So the band next to us at Cherokee was the Stones. So here we are, these young guys in Boston. We go to L.A. to record and so there's Journey, and let's move over to this other. There's the Rolling Stones. Never did see Mick Jagger, but we would see
Ronnie Wood.
We would see Ronnie Wood and Keith Richards all the time. And poor Keith Richards, he looked pretty bad even back in 1979.
He's improved.
Oh, God.
I think he's preserved.
Yeah.
Now, during our show, we've been doing something. Do you remember, were you on the show on 93.7 with Harvey Warfield, Boston Music Showcase? He used to play you guys a lot.
Yes, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I mean, I knew Harvey well, and I'm trying to think if we ever actually went on his show. I think we did.
Yeah, because I was the producer. Yeah, I've got pictures of Hirsch, so I think
so we must
were there
have,
too.
we must
Yeah.
have, because the AAF was all over our record, so.
All right. So the demo that got the deal is a show I created, and Harvey would ask the question, but I wrote all the scripts. And we probably had you on, but since we're doing it again, what was the demo that got the deal for the band New England?
Okay. It's interesting you asked that, because I was trying to think of that on the way over, thinking you might ask that. And I can tell you that what happened with New England was we did 3 demos, and I had a friend in Philadelphia that was putting up the studio time for us. And so we did 3 songs the first time, and we were liking it, but we were critical of ourselves. We did, I think, 4 the next time. So we did that 3rd demo, and Don't Ever Want to Lose You was on there. I believe Alone Tonight, Hello, Hello, Hello. And I can't remember what the 4th one is. It might have been Shoot, but when we heard that demo, we just thought, I think we got something here. And we did. We started playing it for some local promo guys around town, and they were just like loving it. And then we met Rick Aliberti, who worked with Bill O'Coin.
Oh.
And he actually came to see us play at our little, rehearsal place in Braintree. And then he brought Bill O'Coin in, and then Bill O'Coin brought Paul Stanley in. And then all of a sudden, all these record companies were coming to see us. I mean, Ron Alexenberg, Clive Davis, was in our little room. Clive really, really wanted the band. But Bill steered us toward the Infinity deal. But all of these, we were just, are you kidding me? All of these, and they were record presidents coming down to see the band.
Well, Bill O'Coin had a good track record.
He had a great track record.
And a good ear.
Yep.
Boy, if you went with Clive, things might have been different.
Things might have been different. I know that although we loved working with Mike Stone, and he helped make our sound, but part of Clive's sales pitch to us was he wanted Alan Parsons to produce us. And that certainly wouldn't have been so bad either.
No, not at all. Didn't Alan engineer the Beatles?
I think he was involved with some Beatles, and of course a lot of the English stuff. And of course the Alan Parsons Project he had, with his own band eventually. But I think Supertramp. I think he did early Supertramp stuff.
Now, just to finish up on this, the 3rd set of demos, where were they done?
They were done in Philadelphia.
Oh, so you did
They were all done in Philadelphia. So we had a guy by the name of Steve Bruno owned a studio down there, and he just happened to be a friend of mine. And
Steve Bruno,
B-R-U-N-O. And we ended up, when we got signed, we ended up, he got a nice piece of change for putting the time up, so he got paid well. But that we wanted to take care of him because that, he helped us out. But yeah, so we had a recording studio too, and you had to, back in those days, you had to have a recording studio. There were no home studios.
No.
There was you couldn't afford to have a tape recorder, but today, of course, you can.
Now, Philadelphia is interesting. Jerry Ross is from there. He wrote, I'm gonna make you love me.
Yeah.
And he produced Sonny for Bobby Hebb. Jerry's being inducted into this Walk of Fame October 24th down in Philly. He just wrote me today. He's one of the great 60s producers. It's just interesting. Philadelphia is such a great scene.
Yes.
Pat Martino came out of there, Chubby Checker, Ernest Evans, and even the Joe Pesci. They were all like a little club.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci, Chubby Checker, and isn't that strange? A movie actor, great jazz guitarist, and a pop singer who did the twist.
And then, of course, another Philadelphian, our 3rd record we did with Todd Rundgren.
Oh, I didn't know he's from down there.
Yeah,
yes.
that's where he was from, Philadelphia.
And that was on Elektra.
That was on Elektra, yeah. And I remember Todd saying when we finished that record, this is a great record. Don't let them screw it up.
It was a very good record. Explorer Suite was on.
It was that was on Elektra too. That's what I was going to tell you about when we were recording our 2nd album at Intermedia, and we had spent so much money on the first record. We were at Davlin in L.A. We were at Cherokee. Then we did some work at Electric Ladyland in New York.
Nice.
And then we finished it at Trident in London. So this was all fun, but then we saw how much money we were spending, and of course you've got to pay it back. And on tour, we were touring, these national tours with the tour buses and the hotels, and we were just, hundreds of thousands of dollars going into debt. So we started to reel it in ourselves. So we were recording at Intermedia, and we got a phone call from actually promo person that we had met in Montreal, and she called up and asked for us, and she said, you know, the label's going under. So we heard it.
Oh no!
So we're in the middle of making our second record, and the label went away. So the Infinity actually ended up having about 40 groups on the label, and they were supposed to only have 10 or 12. So I don't know how that happened. But when it went under, MCA only wanted 4 groups, and we were one of them.
Ah, nice.
But there was some MCA kind of stuff going on, you know, with not paying, and so we lawyered ourselves off of MCA. Now, as I look back, maybe that was a mistake. But we went with Elektra, and Elektra just did nothing for us, unfortunately.
But you don't know. Hindsight's 20/20.
Yep.
You don't know. I'm going to ask Lisa a couple of questions, but before I do, the Elektra deal, how did you land that?
That was just, actually, Rick Alberti used to work for Elektra. He was a vice president of O'Coin Management, and he was sort of the lead, you know, pointing us in that direction. But to give an example of what Elektra did for the band, we were actually playing a large concert club in Tempe, Arizona, and like about 1,500 people, and was sold out. And sometimes we had limos. We weren't paying for them, but the local promo guys would bring us in a limo. So we came up in a limo, and the people are all standing around waiting to see the band. So we thought we'd go over and, you know, greet some of the fans. And we said to them, now our new record had been out for 2 months. So these are our fans. So we said, so how do you like our new record? They said, what new record?
Wow.
They didn't even know we had a new record out. So how bad is that? But anyways, let's move on. So what's going on, Lisa? Tell us about why you're back in town.
Why I'm back in town?
Oh, back on visual radio.
And
Back on visual
radio.
radio. Well, when I had lived in Los Angeles for 10 years, and I had a good amount of success. Not to the star level, but I was heading that way. And I ended up getting pregnant, having my daughter. And for the first couple of years, I was really involved with her. And actually, the last time I did the show, not to correct you, and the reason I know this is because of the person who came with me, I believe it was in 97.
97, okay.
Because I was living in East Boston was the last time I did visual radio.
That's still
And
a good 16 years ago.
And at that time, in 97, I had done Meet Joe Black, and I was on it initially as a union extra, and then I ended up getting a little part on it, which I got cut out of. I feel like that's the story of my life. But from there, I went to New York, and I said to people, I'm going to get an off-Broadway. And there were all these New York actors that, on this particular thing, because it was a great gig, because it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and people would make their insurance, they would, you know, make a lot of connections. It was just a really, really, it was like 200 mostly New York actors. And they're like, you're out of your mind, you're LA trained. I said, but I'm actor studio trained. That's different. And they were like, no, it's not. I said, oh, yes, watch. And I ended up getting a lead in 98 off-Broadway at the Harold Clinton, Stella Adler's husband's theater. I was accused in the Village Voice of a little nepotism from the Brando family, but there really was none. They had no idea, which was great. And
they had no idea, but you were accused of it. That's too weird.
Yeah, it is strange. Well, after it came out and I did a great job, then I was accused of it. And then I went on and just kept doing like small projects, did some student films. Because in Boston, basically, it's really hard. There's not a real, well, like there's a lot of like extra work. And once you start doing theater, I can get up to that part. And they know you do theater. They'll bring you in to read and stuff like that, like most of them, if you have a theater background, which I did. And then in 2005, it was then called the Devana Theater. It's now called a different theater. I did a lot of industrials, too. Are you familiar, just in case somebody doesn't know what an industrial is, because so many people that are not into acting or music, whatever, don't understand what an industrial is. And I guess the easiest way to describe that is if you go to work at a McDonald's or a Burger King's and you watch those little training videos. I worked for a place called Ames Media, and I was supposed to be the cute girl that showed you how you didn't get your hand cut off. Well, it started in LA, and then I started doing more of it in Boston. And it pays well, but it certainly doesn't get you the exposure that you're looking for.
John did industrial rock.
Yeah, well, did you really? Well, I actually had composed for those industrials.
So you totally understand what I'm talking about.
At Bose, and I've done voiceover work for the industrials where I.
Oh, so we all know.
Get paid doing industrial work.
Yeah, yeah, but it's good money, like
Absolutely.
I said. But you
walk into a half hour, you walk out with a check, or an hour, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. And then in 2005, like I said,
Industrial Light and Magic.
Well, maybe we'll all end up doing an industrial. Wouldn't that be funny? We'd have to tape it. We'd have to interview each other while we were doing this industrial.
This is an instructional video for public access.
Yeah.
What was your fondest memory with Christian Brando?
Oh God, it's really a funny moment. I actually, when I met him, I felt sorry for him because I really didn't believe he was a Brando. I mean, to us at the Actors Studio, Marlon Brando was God, but I thought he lived in Tahiti somewhere. And he got in the back, like he just rode, I shouldn't say rice burners, but like Hondas and thing, and I rode a Harley Davidson. And I grew up in Harley Davidsons. And he actually got on the back of my Harley and put a helmet on and said, let's go up Mulholland. So we're driving up Mulholland, and he comes to a gate, and he opens the gate, and we pull up, and it was just like kind of, I mean, it had tons of land, you know, but not this gargantuous home. And we open the door, and he you know, gets his key out, and standing at the door is Marlon Brando. And I went, oh my God, I thought he was lying. You know, actually I called him Bud because I got to know him so well. That's what his friends called him. And he just started laughing and laughing. He goes, you know, that happens to this jerk all the time. He goes, at least I know you didn't go out with him because of me. I go, I really didn't. I felt bad for him.
I got a great story for John. There's a book author I want to have on the show, and she's her roommate. So someone's knocking on the door one day, and how long were you living with Astrid before you found out who her brother was?
Oh my God, a good 6 months.
She was living with this woman for 6 months. A guy knocks on the door. Who is it?
Neil Young. And I'm like, Astrid, Neil Young is here. She goes, yeah, he's my brother.
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm having a blonde moment. Oh, this is the biggest blonde moment I've ever had in my life. And he just started laughing. He goes, you're adorable. And he just gave me this big hug. And
he said, my sister never told you, or something like that?
Yeah, my sister never told you. I go, no, I guess you're not that important to her. And they all started, you know, there was a bunch of people there. And of course, everybody was laughing about it. And Astrid told that story over and over again. So hopefully we'd love to get her on the show.
She's great.
Yeah, oh, she's just a wonderful person.
You had her call me on the phone. She's just so much fun. She sent me her demo, and it's really good.
Yeah.
And she has a book out. So we got, you know, we have authors on all the time. We're running out of time. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes, and then we have Delastrito talk. Did you have fun?
Oh, this has been great.
Oh, good, because the door is open, John. You're an old friend.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, and you know, you can bring friends in. We can bring Karen DiBiase in and beat her up. Karen's great. You will love her. She's a vocal coach. She learned from Dante Pavone, who did, you know, Faye Dunaway and Peter Wolf, and you know Dante.
Yes, I mean, I never experienced taking lessons from him, but he's like the god, evidently, of voice.
He turned the Beatles down, I think, and because he wanted people that were serious and weren't just going to come in, do it, and leave. And he wanted just serious people that were going to work with him. And Karen carries on his the Pavone method.
Yeah, and evidently, if you studied with him, your stamina, you can just sing forever.
Really?
Night after night is the
techniques.
The
breathing techniques. She was really into that.
You can just sing forever.
He was the guy. Did Tyler and Perry go to him?
I think so.
Aerosmith?
Yep, I think like Jonathan Edwards and all those.
Really?
Those Peter Castle, you know, I don't know if
Peter Castle guys, oh yeah.
Yeah, all those guys, Orphan, and they were all studying from him.
I got to write Orphan's bio for the Music Museum of New England.
Oh. Eric Lilliquist and Dean 8, they're still around.
Eric was on the show.
Was he on the show?
About a year ago.
Oh, geez.
Isn't this great? No, we've got, you know, we've got cool we've got it documented. I'm just so happy that we have it documented of, people like you and Hirsch. We got Hirsch on the road at the music expo. We do these record things. Lisa's coming to one, September 22nd. You're invited. Duke Robillard's going to be there. You can sign autographs and stuff.
Oh.
If you like.
Cool.
I've got one September 8th in Dedham for Bert and Randolph Music. So we have these vinyl record events where there's so much vinyl in the room, and vinyl's huge again.
Yeah,
There's probably a ton of New England albums. People are running around with these little vinyl turntables, listening to the records before they want to find the best possible quality. They're like $100 turntables that they take to the record shows.
That's funny.
And they have headphones. It's too funny.
Vinyl is huge. I'm sorry. Vinyl is huge right now.
Yeah, somebody actually had asked me, if my new record was on vinyl, and I had no idea actually what you're saying is how popular it is again.
The Rolling Stones on Carol Kay's, Eagle Rock, double, and they use expensive virgin vinyl, and the audiophiles are going nuts with the vinyl again. One last question before we call Frank. The demos are actually on these re-releases of New England?
We put out a record called 1978, and they were all the demos.
Oh, so it's all on a CD.
It's all on a CD.
Oh, that's great. I got to get a hold of
1978.
Gary Boris does an amazing job with you guys.
He does a great job. He's passionate about it, so it's terrific.
Gary lives in New York, but he was a Boston scenester with us in the 80s.
Great.
Yeah, and it's great Facebook. We Facebook, but having John right here with us is just awesome.
I'm so happy to be here. Love to come back.
The door's open to you anytime. You can come back next month. You can come back next year, whenever.
Okay.
We're going to learn about Alfred Hitchcock's Blackmail,
Okay.
which is the movie tomorrow night, people, is Blackmail at 9 o'clock. Maybe we should see about going back on Friday nights, but this has worked so well, the Thursday night.
Frank Delastrino talking about movies.
Frank, you're always so ready at the phone. I'm so appreciative of that. Say hi to Lisa Kavanaugh, our co-host.
Hi.
Oh, Lisa, but I must admit, once my wife had to bring me the phone in the bathtub, so.
In the bathtub.
I'm not going to tell you which movie it was, Joe, because people will go back and listen for the sloshing, but I actually did one of your shows in the bathtub.
Frank was reviewing the movie Au Natural.
Maybe.
Hey, Jeff Dearman, how's our audio? He's got the thumbs up, so you can go, Frank.
Okay. All right, so, Joe, the world wants to know, what was your review of Elysian that you couldn't tell us about last week?
Elysian's the new Jodie Foster movie, previous guest of Visual Radio, but she didn't do it for this movie. I really like it. I think it is a fascinating science fiction movie, but I think it takes from so many other movies liberally. It's the guy that did District 9, so it's set in Mexico. It's set in Los Angeles, but they taped it in Mexico. So, did I like it? It was a fun 2 hours, yes.
Well, Joe, you and I often disagree on movies, and this will be one of them. I didn't like it at all, but I do agree with you. It lacked some originality. All the elements you had seen before.
It lacked originality, but it was stunning visuals. I liked it. A little too gory for me. A little too gory.
Okay. Jodie Foster was one of the most weirdest performances I've ever seen.
Really?
She wasn't wooden, but she was just so cold. So either you like it or you don't. Okay, shall we talk about tomorrow night's movie?
I can talk about Hitchcock with you week after week. You know that.
Okay, tomorrow's movie is Blackmail, 1929. So it's right on the cusp of when silent movies are dying and sound movies are taking over. And there's no movie more on the cusp than Blackmail, which actually starts as a silent production. And basically they had finished a silent film when the producer came in and said, we got to do this with sound. So they basically remade it with sound. So there was actually a silent version out there and a sound version out there. I suspect you're showing the sound version, but I don't know what you're showing, but both of them are out there. I think the sound version is easier to get, so my guess is that's what you're showing.
I don't know.
Okay.
Is the answer.
Sound or silent? This has the longest Hitchcock cameo of any Hitchcock movie. It occurs about 10 minutes into the movie and lasts about 20 seconds, which is long for a Hitchcock cameo. And for those who aren't paying close enough attention, he is a passenger on the London Underground, what we would call a subway, and he is being pestered by a boy while he reads a newspaper, and he tries to get the kid off his back. So that goes on for about 20 seconds. You can't miss him if you see that coming, and it's only 10 minutes into the film. Let's see, there won't be too many people you know in this film. This has a British cast. The only person I think that people my age would recognize their name is Cyril Richard, who was Captain Hook in the Mary Martin Peter Pan.
Oh, whoa.
And if you grew up in the 50s like I did, that was kind of a perennial special.
It was like The Wizard of Oz and Peter Pan year after year. You'd wait
Yes.
for those two.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
You're very close to being right. Peter Pan wasn't on every year, but it was on almost every year. And actually, if you watched it every year, you saw 3 different productions, because in 1955 was the first year. That was done live, and they taped it, but it was done live. Then I think in 1956 they did it again live. Again, they taped it. And 1960 was played as a tape, and I think that's the one that is easiest to get these days. And each version is a little different, and if you watch all 3 versions, you'll see Mary Martin and Cyril Richard as Peter Pan and Captain Hook are always the same. But of course, the kids are getting older, so the kids change. So Cyril Richard is in there very early. I'm not giving up too much away to say he dies early in the movie, so he's a young man. So for people that remember Peter Pan, Mary Martin's Peter Pan, you keep an eye out for Cyril Richard. Let's see. Hitchcock is kind of playful, and there is one scene where the characters are speaking, but the shadows from the whatever caused the shadows in the scene are casting dark strips over their lips, and that was kind of his saying, "Silence is gone. This is a farewell to silence." That's what he intended it as. And I think on the most common video version, the DVD that's most easy to find on the stands, you actually see that there's 2 characters on the cover, and one of them the dark strip is just below the lower lip of one of the characters, and on the other character the dark strip is right across the shadow. And you could easily just say, okay, it's a shadow on a scene, but that was Hitchcock's homage to silent movies, saying this is it. He accepted that silent movies were dying, which was pretty much the case in 1929. Even though this movie saw both the silent and the sound version in the theaters, and the silent version actually made more money because not that many movies had been wired for sound yet, so there weren't that many theaters that could play sound films yet. So they still needed silent versions of all movies to show them. When he filmed the silent version, nobody cares about how the actors sound because you can't hear them. But his leading lady was Czechoslovakian, and she had a thick German Czech accent. And when they did the sound version, it just wasn't working, but dubbing had not been perfected yet. So, again, I'm pretty sure you're showing a sound version tomorrow night. The actress who plays that part is just mouthing her words, and another actress is just off camera. And as the camera moves, she follows them around. But you'd never see her, but she is saying the words that the other actress is mouthing. So if you pay attention, you can see here and there see a slight mismatch of lip movements with sound.
That was our co-host Lisa doing back then in 1929. She was doing the sound. It was her voice.
Oh, that was me. Oh, absolutely.
Hey, well, maybe. And for those who love trivia, the Czech actress was named Annie Ondra. And, of course, the coming of sound ruined her sound career. So she went back to Germany, and she married the former heavyweight champion of the world, Max Schmeling. And I think they were married for the rest of their lives. So that had a happy ending there.
That's good trivia. I like that.
All right.
Yes.
And this is also the first movie where Hitchcock uses a national landmark for a scene. Now, if you watch latter-day Hitchcock movies, they're all over the place. Mount Rushmore is in North by Northwest, and the Golden Gate Bridge is in Vertigo, and so on and so on. The Statue of Liberty is in Sabotage, which is a movie you've shown. And here there's a key scene that takes place in the British Museum, and Hitchcock liked the audience reaction to that, since it was even people that hadn't never been to the British Museum knew it was a landmark, and he liked that. So in his future movies, he would weave that in wherever he could.
And that's our show for tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you next week, Joe. Bye-bye.
Bye. Frank Delastrito, was that fun?
That was
Yeah,
very
that
fun.
was great.
Yeah.
That was great trivia too as well.
I met Hitchcock for Frenzy. I have photos.
Oh my
An
God!
autograph.
Wow.
You got to bring him on.
Yeah, we'll bring the photos of Hitchcock on. We've got 15. John Fannon, thank you.
My pleasure.
It's great
New
to
album?
meet you. Wonderful to
Nice
meet
to meet
you.
you. New
album
I've
is
got to come
called-
see your show.
Thank you.
The new album.
It's saved all the pieces and go to johnfannon.com.
And Lisa Kavanaugh.
Back.
You'll be seeing Lisa more. Thank you, Jeff Dearman. Thank you, Judy Kellerman. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.